Don't Let Go stars David Oyelowo and Storm Reid and is a story of a police officer whose entire family is killed in a horrific murder. Among the dead is his young niece, played by Reid. In his grief, he gets a phone call from his niece's cell phone, and it turns out it's actually her on the other line. And before too long, he realizes he's speaking to his niece in the past, and perhaps there's a way that he can stop her murder from ever happening. The plot of this movie is similar to the 2000 movie Frequency, starring Jim Caviezel and Dennis Quaid. In that film, it was a ham radio and there was 30 years of separation. In this film, it's a cell phone and it's only a few days. Nevertheless, the comparison is obvious, and I wouldn't say that I hold that against the film, but I would be surprised if that comp wasn't given in a pitch meeting before this movie got made at some point. The clear strength of this movie is David Oyelowo. He's a master. He's an incredible actor. His talent is unsurpassed. He is so good in this movie, and even in scenes that are underwritten from a character perspective, he makes them so watchable simply because he is such a phenomenal actor. The first act of the movie, where this murder occurs, we're discovering this interesting connection that happens, is very mysterious and very creepy, and I was having a really good time with it. At some point, though, the movie shifts into a series of phone calls, and you realize that that's about all this script has to offer. Is a series of phone calls and attempts to change the past and the future as a result. For the first 30 or 40 minutes of the movie, that time-crossed phone call that happens is really compelling because it's new. We're getting used to it. It's exciting, and we're hoping that they find fresh ways to maintain the tension and keep things interesting. But unfortunately, they keep doing the same thing over and over again. It's just a lot of phone calls and a lot of attempts to change things. And at some point, the plot gets very difficult to follow and convoluted. And the rules of what's going on with this phone call aren't 100% clear. I'm not sure what the budget for this movie is, but it seems like it was somewhere around maybe 5, 6, 7 million. If it was more than that, I'd be surprised. If it was less than that, I could see that happening, but that seems about where it should be. And for films of that budget, with minimal characters like this one, there's certain things that need to happen. If you have a science fiction or supernatural twist to your movie, the rules kind of have to be clear. That aspect of the movie has to make sense, but it's also good to really make us care about these characters. In regards to David Oyelowo and Storm Reid, I definitely gave a shit about them. And I was on their side, and I really kind of cared about what they were trying to do. But once the twist of the film gets introduced, and that device is front and center, it becomes very confusing, and I realized that even though the characters are pretty great, I just didn't care because it's hard to follow. And it's around the halfway point where a switch happens, and then something else occurs, and you're sort of like, wait, what? And it suffers from that time travel issue that a lot of movies suffer from, where nothing really makes sense anymore, and you could just pick holes in it for the rest of your life, which I tried not to do. I really just tried to focus on these characters and what they were attempting to do. And there are scenes where it works. But there are some scenes, too, that just feel like very basic coverage. There's a very long scene with David Oyelowo in a restaurant involving a piece of gum. And the scene goes on and on and on, and it's just so basic coverage and very handheld. A lot of the movie is handheld, and it feels a little lazy. But it's because of David Oyelowo that this movie is as watchable as it is. And some other actors show up that I didn't know were in the film, like Alfred Molina, and he's always great. And as usual, whenever I'm looking at a younger actor's performance, I'm usually looking at the director. Because these aren't adults, they're not as experienced as some adult actors will be, and so it falls on the director to say, "Ooh, that was a little too much." And I'm not sure that was said enough in this movie. That's all I'll say. I don't really want to get too critical of a child performance. I don't like doing that. It makes me feel gross. There were scenes that I felt like, ooh, that's actually kind of a cool way to do it. I liked the musical score a lot. It felt unique and it felt original. It was just that the central plot confines of this device, this phone call that's crossed between a few days, it just became so convoluted and confusing that even though the characters were strong, I just lost interest about halfway through, because it sets up a compelling first act and you're kind of on board. And then, like I said, a switch happens And then all of a sudden you're overboard from that. And we have to get invested in this new direction. And I'm like, but what about the other stuff that happened? And then they're on a phone call and they're saying things, and I'm like, but the things that, all right, whatever. Okay. I'm going to give Don't Let Go a C+. Well, guys, that is the summer of 2019. That was interesting. There were some good things. There were some bad things. There were some really bad things. And there were some really good things, too. I'm looking forward to the fall because the fall always has a lot of greatness, and I'm hoping that this fall is awesome. So thank you very much, as always, for watching. But I also want to give a big thank you to the sponsor for this video, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online community in which you can learn just about anything. They have classes in filmmaking, creative design, graphic design, writing, editing, acting, directing, everything. It's incredibly comprehensive. I think it's especially helpful for people who are trying to learn more about the film industry, simply because there are so many classes relating to it. When I was in elementary school, my first experience with writing was short stories. I wanted to write a bunch of stuff down on notebook paper, and so that was how I kind of learned how to craft stories. And Skillshare has a class called Writing Character-Driven Short Stories that's extremely helpful for learning how to do that. As well as a class called Creative Personal Writing, Write the Real You, which is great for learning how to write stories that are personally impactful to yourself. Skillshare is also very affordable. An annual subscription is less than $10 a month, but because they're sponsoring this video, you can follow the link in the description below and get 2 months completely free. So once again, check out that link in the description below for a 2-month free trial of Skillshare. Thank you to them for sponsoring this video, and thank you guys for watching. As always, look forward to more reviews very soon, and if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmanized.